Good evening. Before we start tonight's program, this is a reminder that this episode will address various topics related to mental health, the human experience for that matter, and a reminder about my ongoing battle with multiple sclerosis. A major update, in fact, so we'll get to that in the upcoming minutes. These may be sensitive to some of our viewers. Needless to say, viewer discretion is advised. We remind you to please consult your doctor, your mental health professional, your outreach group, your sponsor, or specialist before adopting any change to your dietary, physical, and/or mental health regime. That part of the disclaimer is important tonight because we're going to talk about the things that I'm doing now and have been doing for the last 31 months as far as the weight loss. Again, I really am adamant about this. Consult your doctor, your dietary, physical, and dietary professional, or who have you, before you embark upon a major life change. So there's a disclaimer for that. If you're looking for options to go down with respect to mental health, contact SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, at 1-800-662-HELP. Again, 1-800-662-HELP. 1-800-662-4357, in fact, that is. The service is open 24/7, 365 days a year, and is a confidential, free information service for individuals and family members facing such stressors. Importantly, if you're facing suicidal crisis or emotional distress and need to be put in touch with a crisis center, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can also text the word HOME to 741-741. Those resources are also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then we would be remiss not to talk about this important thing, and that of multiple sclerosis. It's something that has absolutely, unequivocally been paramount in my mind and heart over the last 6 months. The National MS Society is a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about MS now, to move together towards a world free of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is comprised of unpredictable and often disabling flare-ups of the central nervous system. Such flare-ups disrupt the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. The National MS Society is the largest private funder of MS researchers in the world, investing more than $1 billion to date. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Once again, 1-800-344-4867, or go to their website at nationalmssociety.org. Also of note, we are still raising money for the National MS Society through A Venture to a Cure's fundraising page at rebrand.ly/A Venture to a Cure. This effort will last through the end of September. Thank you to all of you who have donated money to this amazing organization. It touches me and over the 1 million people in this country that have MS in so many ways, and I appreciate all of you. And on that, let's begin. Today's MRI is on the left. The one from April is on the right. You are not seeing anything. We started the episode last week with that very MRI animation, and we have an update on the MRI animation that we will talk to in mere minutes. But until then, it's an honor and pleasure to see all of you tonight. I am John Venturini. I'm a recovering addict of overeating, obesity, of compulsive gambling, and of alcoholism. And it's an honor and pleasure to see all of you tonight on the Venture Forward. The Venture Forward is a story of many different things that I've been battling in my life. And they have reached sort of critical mass and a lot of correlation with one another since the show started in October, funny enough, but definitely within the last 31 months. And tonight, I have the best news to share with you. And I also have a little bit of the method behind the madness on what this next chapter of the weight loss is. So we'll talk about all of that in mere minutes, but I want to say hello to all of you that are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. It's absolutely a very important. I would go back to the fact that it was a very important weekend when I got the email from my neurologist, and my neurologist, who is a very, very respectable doctor over at UPenn, who is one of the leading research doctors with respect to multiple sclerosis, who basically has been absolutely a godsend to me since the diagnosis back in January. He's been absolutely incredible to me. And I must take a moment out before I tell you what the great news is to thank everybody at University of Pennsylvania in the sense of the work that they've been doing, the 70 MRIs that I've been taking, this sort of study, that sort of detailed MRI that I've been taking on a quarterly basis that I'll take again in October. It's they are great people over there. And they are people that are on the forefront of trying to lead the population here in Pennsylvania, in Delaware, in Jersey, those that have multiple sclerosis to not necessarily, well, I mean, it'll be my lip to God's ears, but a cure or basically the best sort of disease-modifying treatment there is out there. And to that end, I was someone who was, and I'm going to be absolutely blatantly honest tonight, someone who was very worried and a bit, not necessarily skeptical, but I'll say worried, because I went for the Oservis in late March, mid-April, 2 half doses. I then went for a 7T MRI in April. That was the image that was on the right-hand side of the graphic. In fact, I'll bring it up again. That's what I'll show you this while I'll talk over it. So when we take a look at it, you're taking a note for the number of lesions that are in or on the brain and that are pointed down the CNS, the central nervous system. When I had the MRI done in April, I was disheartened because there were 4 new lesions versus the MRI in January. And I was reminded that it takes a certain period of time before Oservis works its effect. Some studies say 4 weeks, some say 8 weeks, but it takes time for Oservis to basically kill off the CD20 markers on the B cells and work towards correcting this sort of autoimmune disorder that the B cells present to someone who has multiple sclerosis by way of demyelination. Here's the good news. If you take a look at that MRI, my first gut feeling was, well, it doesn't look like there's much of a change. And in this world, because there is no remyelinating agent, that is good news. But then again, it's just me, and certainly there are other things to look at, and other markers to look at. My doctor got back to me over the weekend and told me that he too didn't see any new lesions, and moreover, that he truly feels that Oservis is working. So for someone who went to the end of last year with the desensitization again, with the optic freezing, and all of the symptoms that plagued me back in the one event back in 2011, when we thought it was just one CIS, one event tied to a neurological disorder. The fact that it looks like whatever this exacerbation's been, the fact that there are no new lesions going April to July, but moreover, that it seems to be doing its job. Now, I am looking forward to the next round of infusion in October. I'm looking forward to the next MRI in October. But to see that, maybe, I'm going to be absolutely honest for a second, it made me emotional for about a few minutes. About, I think, 5 or 6 minutes, I was crying. Because this has been a tough road. I've undertaken a lot in the last 31 months. I mean, we talk about the weight loss. We talk about the sobriety. We talk about not gambling anymore. We talk about the bankruptcy. We talk about everything. I've gone through a lot. Not to say that others haven't gone through a lot in what was 2020, 2021, and that term I can't use for the sake of demonetization, as we affectionately call the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. All of that happening during that. It's been a lot. But to see that something is working, I think is just, I'm really humble. I'm really thankful. I'm really appreciative. And I know that we must never lose faith. We must never lose faith in what's out there. We must never lose faith in doing the right thing and working towards something. Because when we work towards something, at least we're giving ourselves a chance. Now, what's not to say that something happens tomorrow, but we are doing our best we can to give ourselves a chance to live. Anyhow, got some comments on Facebook. Good, and by the way, again, good evening to all of you. Brad joining us says, stopped in to show some love and drop a like. Got to run to the store for Mom, so I'm going to watch late. Brad, thank you for joining us this evening. It's great to see you, and for all of you that are new to the show, if you could put a new up in the comments, that'd be great. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. And Ingy, good to see you too. Great news, John. It's news that I'm just in awe of, right? So thank you, Ingy. I appreciate that. Also, quick note, the fact that my dear friends at Penn Medicine gave me a DVD for me to put on my MacBook and to show you guys what those images looked like last week was also amazing. To also have a really great doctor look through it and look to see what's going on is... You can't have better. You really can't. So again, much thanks to the fine people at UPenn. Brad also says, I'm kind of here. I will watch the full show later though, brother. Not sure if my sister's here though. I'll send her the link. That's great. Brad, catch us on replay or send it to your sister and she can catch the replay. That'd be great. Muchly appreciated nonetheless. So that's the great news. That's the big news that took place this weekend. And, as far as to go forward from that, I kind of talked about it before, but I'll repeat it. I go for the next MRI in October. I also go for the next infusion, a full infusion. So not two halves. It'll be a full infusion in October of Oservis. And that's the MO now. The Oservis will be given twice a year. It's looking like April and October. And as far as the MRIs, I got another one in October, and there'll probably be another one in January, and then we go to twice a year with the MRIs. But the work that Penn Medicine's doing with the study, They do a study of the effects of Osiris. It's a baseline plus 3, baseline plus 6 months, baseline plus 9 months, then 12 months, and then 18, 24, 30, 36. It's to have that sort of feedback, that sort of diagnostics, but also to have the clearest images that an MRI can produce is incredible. And it talks to the amazing work they do over at UPenn. So that is the story with respect to the MS. Let's now course correct and talk about the weight loss, because there's been some changes with respect to that too. As of Friday, I'm still down 281, haven't budged another pound there. But the thing is, I'm in the process of building muscle now. And the situation is when your body was 480 pounds and your body fat percentage was astronomically high, the game now becomes converting the skin and converting into muscle tone. And that's now sort of the course correction. I've gone to see a trainer. I've also gone to a gym, which has helped considerably. And we'll talk about exactly what I'm doing in seconds. In fact, let me go to the slides. In fact, I first want to say hi to Sarah. Didn't know you'd be on tonight. Can't keep up. It's Tuesday night. There won't be an episode on Thursday, and we'll be back for VF Talks on Friday. It's a summer schedule. We'll be back to some sort of normal cadence come September. But thank you for being here, Sarah, for sure. Marilyn says, "Good afternoon, John, Brad, and Ingy. Hope it finds you all doing well." And Sarah, yep, good to see you, Marilyn. Good to see you for sure. And Brad says, "Way to go on the weight. Now it's my turn, Brad. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. It's something that I have gone through 3 times in my life, and this time it's staying off. And the reason why it's 3 times is because there was something wrong upstairs. And we'll talk to that in a second. Let me actually go to this over here. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay. So this is what we're looking at, right? Great news in muscle building, I think, was what we call today's episode. Everybody knows the line chart. This is the line chart I showed from last week. It is status quo week over week. No change there. 199. Still looking to get down to 170, 180 by the end of the summer, if not by Thanksgiving. So I have goals to hit, and I'm working at it through various different sort of methodologies. I'm going to go through this list real quick again. As far as this round is concerned, my weight at the beginning of 2019 was 480 pounds. My first day of tracking food was in mid-February of 2019. The day I was out of the 400s was July 10th of 2019. The day I was out of the 3s was December 18th, 2019. When I matched the lowest of the last time I lost a weight, which would be 245 pounds, that was on April 29th of 2020. I got out of the year 2020, not only in an emergency room at Chester County Hospital, trying to figure out what the heck's going on with this demyelination, which was ending up being diagnosed as MS, but I ended that year at 212 pounds. As of July 2nd, 199 pounds. The next goal being 185, and I'm shooting for the end of September. And that would be the lowest of the first go-round of 2001, 2002. The final goal being within 170 to 180 by Thanksgiving. Those are the goals. That is what I've accomplished thus far in this 32 month journey. So one thing that's worth mentioning though is we talk about these first 2 rounds, first round, second round, third round. This is worth mentioning. In 2001, I was 425 pounds, and I started working on the weight because let's face it, what happened September of 2001? Thing that scared us for all of us. It changed our society. Something that had me laying in the fetal position the next day and of 9/11. And I realized if there was any chance for me to fix this, I have to start this now. Moreover, I just came back from vacation with a dear colleague of mine, and I realized, boy, I'm having a hard time moving on vacation. I better do something about it. So that's when it started the first time. And the first month it was all caloric reduction, dietary. In October, I had a dear friend of mine say, hey, I belong to a gym. It's a great gym. You should go to it. This is the same person I would go to IHOP with on Sundays. And like, okay, well, if you're going to try to change behavior, fine. I ended up joining a bowling league with him too. Great guy. So I started working out. And I was doing the caloric reduction, all that. And by a year later, we're looking at October, November of 2002, I was below 200 pounds. And it's because I remained very steadfast. Now, some may argue that the speed in which I lost that weight, as you could see on this line chart, was really fast. I was also a lot younger at the time. I was in my 20s. I'm going to be 44 at the end of the month. So it's definitely a different game now. That said, the weight did come off. The weight ended up coming back on, though, because I made some really questionable life choices, and my frame, we talk about the frame on the show, my frame was weak. My frame was weak in the sense that I let anything move me one direction or another. Let me go back to Maine for a second, because there was a couple of comments that popped up. Ingy says, I have been working out and lost 18 pounds since March. I am really happy about that. Plan to keep going. It's not just weight loss, it's also getting fit, which feels great, and mentally it helps too. Ingy, you're on the money. There is a strong correlation between weight loss and mental function. If I didn't learn that through what happened in December, November, December, and that of going to the ER on New Year's Eve and being diagnosed with MS in January, I know there's a heavy correlation. Don't forget, I had a demyelinating symptom in 2010, 2011 that had me proceed to lose the weight then too. So there is a huge correlation, huge association between mental health and weight loss. So if you could feel great, if you're doing things to make you feel great and give you all the energy you need, you're doing the right thing. It allows you to tackle so many different things in this life. And Ingy, I am very proud of you, for sure. Sarah says, it's so amazing that's so fast. Yeah, it's a troubling thing. It was really fast. And go back to the PowerPoint here. In the sense that, yeah, that weight came off. So you're going for 425 to 185 in the course of 14 months. That was way too fast. So throughout the 2000s, that weight ended up coming back on. I ended up reaching a crescendo in 2010 before I had that demyelinating symptom. That was demyelinating event of the desensitization, optic freezing, and whatnot. And I went from, at that time, I gained not only all the weight that I lost from 2001, but 15 more on top of it. I was at 440. And I dropped it. I dropped almost 200 pounds, but I dropped 195 pounds. I got down to 245. Again, in very fast succession. And because my frame was weak and because there are other troubling things going on, codependency, bad relationships, blah, 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 blah. They're not bad. It's just bad life choices per se. Not to mention that I took up firefighting in the sense that, hey, gambling sounds like a great idea. Hey, drinking sounds like a great idea. And of course, all of it would come back. So, needless to say, the 2010s had me go from 245 all the way to the beginning of 2019 at 480. And that's where we are now. We went from 480 now down to 199. But that happened over a longer period of time. This line graph is actually a little bit old, and I should update this because there's been plenty of stuff going on in 2021 that should be stretched out a bit. But I would say that the weight loss now, the rate of weight loss, is a sustainable one. And the fact that I didn't gravitate to anything outside of treating my mind first, journaling, meditation, figuring out why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then trying to tackle it using the techniques I used previously, in that of caloric reduction, watching my macronutrients, drinking right amount of water. It's 1 ounce for every 2 pounds you are. That sort of thing. That's how the weight is coming off. And fortunately, that's how the weight is staying off now. But I'm doing things that invigorate me, that allow me to keep on doing this. And it's that sort of thing where one person will say it's a serotonin sort of drop, but it's also basically a fuse of energy that goes in as far as working out and feeling those sort of effects of it. It's amazing what that can do. And when you start losing that weight, but you start working out, my God, it is a game changer and then some. Brad says, I turned 21. Congratulations, Brad, for sure. And Matt says, what's happening here? Hi, John. Hi, Matt. We're doing a show. And I'm showing more numbers. What else is new? There's the big board to my left, and then it's all that. So here comes a very valid question that I don't feel I properly answered throughout the entire series, and I'm going to talk about it a bit right now. In that there is a strategy. There's a strategy that is learned over time. There's a strategy that you talk to one professional and they have their own take on it. You also read something and you say, hey, I'm going to give that a try as well. That's what this is. As far as applications concerned, lose it. Basically, any sort of application that tracks your food, not only from the sake of these are the things I'm eating, but this is the caloric construction of what I'm eating. This is the macronutrient construction of what I'm eating. Being very cognizant of that. Not to say that you have to remember everything, but you should track everything. Even if you're having a cheat day, you should track it. My dear friend, new friend of mine, who's taught me the ways of HIIT, and great trainer in that of herself, taught me a term that I have been using from now on, in that of a food Sabbath, in the sense that you're 5 days on with some sort of rigid sort of structure, and then a day and a half where you're a bit more relaxed. It definitely applies. Macronutrient wise, nonetheless, 100 grams or more per day of protein. Again, me being a man, I don't know the conversion of what that would be for anyone else. I know what it works for me, especially someone who's been up, down these many times. Net carbohydrates of 100 grams or less per day. Sugar, 40 grams or less per day. Again, I'll say the same thing I said at the top of the show. Please see a doctor or a nutritionist or a dietitian before going down any road. This is what's working for me. I've gone meatless at least 2 days a week for the last year and change. And I do something called Meatless Mondays, which has proven to be very effective. I've also been a big believer in Impossible Meat or Beyond Meat, and finding plant-based protein. That's helped considerably. I've also put in more non-beef protein. So there's a lot of fish, a lot of poultry, a lot of vegan protein, and also beef. I still enjoy beef, right? But not as much as I used to. I used to be in a world where I would be eating meat, beef, 4 or 5 days a week. And I could only imagine how bad my cholesterol was, etc. I'm at the point now where the beef is down to like once a week. So I'm still eating beef, but everything in moderation, as they say. Mind first, diet second, sobriety third, movement fourth, exercise fifth, strength training sixth. In other words, the first thing I tackled in this journey was my mind. Whether by way of journaling, whether by way of meditation, whether by way of therapy. Diet was second, using the techniques I learned. Sobriety third, May 30th, 2019 being the last day I drank, hitting that bottom that we talked about before on the show. Movement fourth. So the fact that I am now lesser weight, I feel like I'm moving more. If I'm moving more, guess what? I'm going to move. Exercise 5th, strength training 6th. There was a gym that opened up around here about 3-4 months ago. I have been a very common visitor to that gym, and certainly has been the swift kick to the butt to basically go forward with this. That has come in incredible for me. And then we throw in a strength training regimen in that of my dear friend from Westchester. Go ahead, check to see with her if she wants to do the show. That invite's open. If she does, we'll talk more about her. She's incredible, and I would love for all of you to meet her. Cardio 3 to 4 times a week. That number, to be honest, is a bit conservative. There have been weeks where I've done a lot more cardio. Because I think when I move, I do cardio from the sake of I do elliptical, I do arc training, I do rowing. I do cardiovascular routines that also can be used for upper body. And I don't work much on a lower body because, let's face it, this was a body that carried 480 pounds at one time in its life. So my legs are very strong. But when you throw in a lot of arc training and elliptical training and rowing and running and all that stuff, my legs have to be very strong. So that's how I'm getting that leg work. Every now and then I will do a leg routine, a lower body routine, leg curls, that sort of thing, leg presses, hip adduction, hip, that sort of thing. But most of the work that I do strength training wise has to do with my core, has to do with my upper body, has to do with my balance. When we talk about the events of 2010, 2011, we talk about the events of late 2020 and that of the demyelinating events. My balance isn't the greatest. So any sort of routine that has me focus on my balance and regain that work, whether it's on a Boku ball or any sort of balance ball sort of work, or any sort of agility sort of balance work, that's come in very, very helpful with respect to this. Agility becomes very important in all of this. So strength training and HIIT is twice a week, maybe more. Cardio 3 to 4 times a week. And, between all of that, I've gone through what was a bit of a stalemate given the Backstreet Boys reunion tour of last year. But also finding a way through this and getting forward on that. So being at 199, I know I'm marching towards 185, 180, 170. And I'll get there when I get there because I feel very confident in it. And I'm doing everything I can to take the best care of myself I can. And go back to Maine. It's not an easy proposition, to say the least. It is something that requires work. But to figure out why we've gone down the roads that we have gone down is very important. If we don't address those things, it may end up to get us back. I know that from 2 times in the past. And I sure as heck is not going to happen a third. Because as I've said on the show in the beginning, the very second week of the show, if it did come back, I can guarantee you it would probably kill me. So there's a lot on the line. Not to mention that you're talking to someone who has MS. It's best for me to be in this shape now. It's more than just a number on a scale. It's more than just a body mass index sort of number, which you ask a lot of professionals. A lot of professionals have a problem with BMI to begin with. Your body shape can be handled through so many different metrics and so many different qualitative sort of tests that we must not forget that. BMI is just more of a triaging sort of statistic. But there is a lot more that has to be ascertained before we realize the overall physical health of someone. We can get into debates for days on BMI. Matt says, I like shows. I like numbers. Yeah, me too. And Ingy, hey, Marilyn. Ingy says third time's a charm. Yeah, it certainly is, Ingy, for sure. And Sue says, you will go back because you're not that person anymore. I'm a changed man. There are a lot of things I do now that are radically different than what I did in 2002, 2003, all through the 2000s, versus what I did in 2010, 2011, all through the 2010s. I am a different person now in 2021 than I have been in the last 20 years. So there's a lot of truth in that, Sue, to say the least. A lot of truth in that. I think the go forward from us discussing weight loss and whatnot is I want to put some information together about exactly what I've been doing. A few of the viewers have asked me about putting that together, and I will do that. Whether or not I will put together a separate episode to do that or put together a separate series on that is I'm still debating that. But I know a few people have asked about that, and I will. It's a lot, it's one thing for me to say 100 grams or more of protein, 100 grams or less of carbohydrates, 40 grams or less of sugar. There's more to that. There's water intake. There's a lot of other things. And it's also, I guess at the end of the day, it's paying attention to your body. Like when you're in a better shape of yourself, when you're doing more healthier things, your body should be able to dictate exactly when it's hungry, when you've had too much of something, when you've had too much of this, too much of that, when you had too much caffeine, which is always a problem with me. Venti 6-shot Americano, you know me. But listen, when you're working correctly and you're not putting anything artificial in your body, which is another thing, you can listen to your body. And when you can get to that stage of the game does change and you have a better handle on things. That's why tracking everything actually makes a difference, because you're knowing exactly what you're putting in. Anyhow, so I will come up with some information about exactly what my diet is and all of that, even the fun, crazy nuances of it, because I'm being remiss if I'm not talking about the cheat days as well. So I'll be very clear on that too. We won't have a show on Thursday. We'll have another episode of VF Talks on Friday at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific. Next week, I think I'm going to do another Ask Me Anything in light of this information, but also other things. So start thinking about things you want to ask. Start thinking about things about this story that you're curious about, and we will have an Ask Me Anything 1 week from tonight, next Tuesday at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. And then, as I mentioned before, we'll have another VF Talks this Friday, at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific. But until then, I'm going to say the same thing I say at the end of every Venture Forward in VF Talks. Stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. Have a great night, and I'll see you again on Friday at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific for VF Talks. Fly be free.